Coming to you live from a house in Pasadena, I present to you a podcast you didn't even know was so great until you heard it right now. I give it over to Nick Brazzi for the spectacular... Oh, shit.
And that's a great lead-in for another episode of Let's Rewatch. This, of course, is the show where we all like to get together, watch some of those movies that we loved in our youth, and we get to see if they're actually still any good for a modern viewing perspective. So first, let's introduce our regulars. Of course, I'm Nick.
I'm Sam.
I'm Ash.
I'm Brett.
Ines.
And that's Bryce.
And we're joined by a special guest this time around. His name is Dalex Miller.
Hey.
Dalex is an improv comedian and overall just hilarious freaking dude who knows a lot about movies.
Or so we're told.
That is
funny.
really flattering. Thank you guys for that info.
And one of the hosts of
TurtleCom.
So he's a veteran podcaster as well.
It's
also
a
a part of Roadies, a musical improv group here in LA.
These are all true allegations. If I were in a court of law, I would be guilty. Yes, it's fact. I do podcast. I've taken about a 6-month break from doing TurtleCom to travel the world, aka the United States.
Same thing, right?
Same damn thing. And I actually went to New York and kind of got back to my roots, so to speak, even though I had never been to New York for like a good amount of time. I spent 2 weeks there squatting on a hostel that I was not paying for and like trying to figure out.
So homeless.
I was essentially homeless in New York. It was cool.
Yes.
When you think of your roots, do you think living in a sewer and practicing ninjutsu? Because I'm not sure
That
that's
is
actually
correct.
you.
Yeah, that's actually me to a T.
Because if the guy slides the pizza through the sewer gratings, you're all set.
You know, if they say it's over 30 minutes, it's don't pay for late I don't remember the quote. Yes, it is a dandy treat. Yeah, so TurtleCom podcast, it's great. Check it out on iTunes. We love doing it, and we're going to come back to it with full force very soon. Roadies is performing regularly in Hollywood. If you live here, we'd love to have you out. Check out our Facebook page.
It's a great show.
That is so incredibly kind
Super
of you to
good.
say. I
And
love
you can
that.
see a couple recordings of
On
Roadies
Laugh-Stash.
on Laugh-Stash.
That's true.
Laugh-Stash TV on YouTube.
You guys were so kind to come out, and if you ever want to come back and record us again, please do. That would be great.
I do. Just let me know.
Great. We have a show on Monday.
Well,
And so now we're going to get a little taste of how awesome Dalex can be as we talk about this movie that he's brought to the table for us, which is 1999's Mystery
Yes.
Men.
Oh, man.
I
So-
like it's 1999.
So what is that? God, that's 16 years ago now. Wow.
16?
How time...
Wait, are you? No, that's not right. Really?
That's
Yeah,
how long
1999
that year
was
ago.
16 years ago.
It's
Yeah.
true.
16?
The math is not difficult on
2015,
this
yo.
one.
Because it probably came out in like the late summer of 99, if I remember
Oh,
right.
I feel really old, guys.
Yeah, you're feeling old.
Dude.
So, Mystery Men was directed by a guy named Kinka Usher, who's a big commercial director. He has literally directed no feature films before or after Mystery Men.
Oh, no.
So, you probably don't know him from a lot of your favorite movies. I wish I knew which commercials he's done, because apparently
Sure.
that's his main jam.
Source of income?
Yeah. So, but he apparently did not like making movies after this.
No, probably the studio did not like him making movies.
Guys
Yeah.
really aren't setting this movie up
Yeah,
for
that's
success right
Not
now.
good.
Okay,
Good.
let me tell you something. I am so excited about this movie because when I first saw the trailer for this movie, yes, I still remember the moment when I first saw this trailer, even though I was only probably 15 years of age. And I was because I was born in 84. Don't tell anybody. Actually, I wish that was stricken from the record. I don't want anybody to know. Because when I get jobs later as an actor, I don't want people to know how old I am. But I'm fucked now. I've already said it.
They won't
Anyway,
listen to this.
Late 90s, I was a teenager. And I saw the trailer for this movie and another movie. I think it was Ice Age. I could be wrong. And my best friend leaned over and was like, that's going to be awesome. And I was like, it looks stupid because I didn't know what the title was yet. And they drop in the M in like these metallic like letters and stuff that looked more like the Mario Brothers logo of the movie, obviously not the video game series. And I thought it was a Marilyn Manson movie immediately, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be stupid." Because at the time, I didn't have good taste in music.
Ben Stiller starring as Marilyn Manson?
Right, I know. And actually, Marilyn Manson's awesome, and I had to grow to know that, but I didn't know it at the time, and I had no interest in seeing this movie. And then when
we don't want to get
it,
off on any tangents here.
I know, I'm so sorry. I went and saw it. It was fucking incredible. So I'm so excited to like watch this movie again with you guys.
Did it leave like a lasting impression on you?
Okay, I went as one of the characters for Halloween the following year.
I thought you were going to say you went to the premiere of this movie just as one of the characters. That would be amazing.
Which
I
character?
did not. Should I spoil it? Can I say it at this point?
Yeah, you can
think
say
so.
the name.
Wait,
Okay.
I don't know anything about this movie.
Well, it won't spoil
Yeah,
anything.
you could
actually.
say the name of the character.
My best friend Casey went as the shoveler, and
Oh, man.
I was the Blue Raja.
Nice.
Ooh,
And I had
I
a
can see
cape,
that.
and I had forks, and everything was awesome.
wow. So I think that brings us to like, Sam, you haven't seen the movie?
I didn't even know Ben Stiller was in this until Nick said it a couple
He is
times
in this
ago.
movie.
And, I'm going to intentionally avoid saying any of the actors in this movie because it's got a pretty astounding cast
Okay.
Yeah,
that
it
I
really
want to
does.
just unroll
I
as you
have
watch
to
it.
interject again because this movie
That was
should
like half of my
never.
pre-roll.
Yeah.
This movie should never have been made just based on the budget for the cast alone.
I did see a little thing where Janine Garofalo turned this movie down, and then
Oh?
she saw two other actors who were in the movie, and she changed her mind.
There
Wow.
are so many people in this goddamn movie. You're gonna flip your lids.
Second Janine Garofalo movie for our podcast.
Gonna-
Wait a minute,
Nah.
who's that?
You heard me.
What was your first
You
Janine
heard me.
Grabalo?
Janine Garofalo's last name only has 2 syllables when
It's
says
really
it.
If you
Grapple.
end and start it correctly, everyone will know what you mean.
Well, I tried, Sam, but Nick fucking called me out on that bullshit.
I mean,
I'm not going to let you get away with that.
yeah,
I feel like she's the only Janine.
That was your Adele Dazeem
Yeah.
moment.
Thanks.
dude. Which
Except you
Yeah.
weren't like presenting her award, so
Yeah.
you've never
Oh.
seen the movie, Sam.
Yeah, those are my thoughts. I know nothing. I am Jon Snow on this movie. I don't know shit about it. Except the title, and apparently Ben Stiller, and maybe Jean Garofalo.
Well,
Thank you.
I'll give you just a tiny bit of backstory that will not affect the movie whatsoever, but I find kind of fascinating. This movie, in a way, is sort of like Office Space,
Yes.
in that there's a comic book character that was fairly popular, and instead of making a movie about that comic book character, they made a movie about a few background characters. So with Office Space, there was that comic strip, Milton. And
Wait,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, Office Space was all about Milton, but
I
when
didn't
they
know
made
this.
the movie, they thought, well, we can't carry a whole movie based on Milton. So they just kind of made him a background character. For Mystery Men, there was a comic book called The Flaming Carrot.
I love this comic book. Kevin Eastman, co-creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, also loves the Flaming Carrot. Continue.
Excellent. So they thought, let's make a movie, but they couldn't really carry that with The Flaming Carrot. But there was, I guess, a part, like a story arc in The Flaming Carrot where he was part of The Mystery Men, which featured Mr. Furious and the Shoveler and a bunch of others. So they ended up making a movie about Mystery Men. It had not all of the same characters, but a few of the same characters. So I think that's kind of fascinating. The Flaming Carrot doesn't even show up in this movie.
Not even remotely. The closest we get is Pencilhead and Son of Pencilhead, and they don't count.
And I guess was it Captain Amazing or Captain Fabulous?
It's Captain Amazing, played
So
by
he's-
an awesome actor that you'll see in a minute.
And I think he kind of is like the role of what Flaming Carrot would have been.
I guess in
know.
like personality wise, I see that. Yeah. But with all physical regard to it, no. But yeah, I kind of see where like the personality comes into play there.
Yeah. So this is a movie about those background characters kind of, running the whole deal. Of course, our big star here is Ben Stiller. And this would have been the year after There's Something About Mary and 2 years before Zoolander. So this was like right when
When he
Ben
was kind of rising star.
Yeah, he was the hot shit for a minute right then. Like he's still awesome, but that was like the boiling point for Ben
See,
Stiller.
I have a thought about this because, with the exception of Zoolander, Ben Stiller's never been the draw in any movie I've seen of his. Like
There's Something About
For
Mary?
you or
like for me.
for
For
you?
me. Yeah.
Yeah, because something about Mary, it's really about what's her butt. Like that,
Cameron
for me was the
Diaz?
draw for that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. The
Hair thing,
the hair thing,
absolutely.
Like, that was, but it was
God.
funny.
It's
and,
his
like,
story, but it's not.
It's funny to a
He was not the
teenager.
draw.
Yeah, and he's become more the behind the scenes guy. You know, he's directing now, and
True.
you know, he's worked with Dan Harmon. He was the producer behind Heat Vision and Jack. If you ever want to put forth a little effort, that was a pilot episode for a show that did not get picked up. You would love it, Dalex. It was Jack Black stars as an astronaut who goes into space. He gets like super intelligent powers. He comes back to Earth. His partner is an intelligent motorcycle voiced by Owen Wilson.
Oh, you did tell me about this.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels a little bit like Kit relationship and David Hasselhoff.
And when the sun goes down, he loses his super intelligence. You would have to do some like deep web searching to find it. There's only one episode, and it's fucking
It's
brilliant.
not so deep anymore. It was a big thing on Dig a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, recently, yeah.
I feel like
Yeah,
the
if you can
Harmontown
find it.
documentary mentioned this, right?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So before we check out Mystery Men, let's talk about what our expectations are. So Sam, you don't have a lot of expectations because
I
you
got
haven't.
nothing.
Okay.
Ben Stiller.
Right
That's
on.
it. I don't know.
So I have a memory of really, really, really loving this movie. But I also have seen it quasi recently and felt that it wasn't as great as I remembered then. So I don't know that I'm going to be so jazzed about this. And I think that maybe part of it is I'm burnt out on, there's a concept that this movie introduced was, these are superheroes who have no business being superheroes, that has been fucking beaten to death in the past 15 years. So,
But this was like the first movie to do that.
and
This
that's
was the
important. You
best.
need to go into this movie with that mindset
Yeah.
that this concept has not been beaten to death and you've never seen this
And
concept
that's-
before.
That's what I'm like looking forward to, is because that was the real big deal about this movie. And I remember as a kid, it was just like, this looks fucking amazing, because like, yeah, okay, whatever, superheroes are super all the time, but like, this looks like they're making fun of the whole genre, but like in a serious tone, you know? And so I mean, I remember
so
liking
serious.
but you know, like it's not just straight up yuck all the time.
Because
either.
wasn't this around the time period where like the original like Hulk and
This was a full year before
Yeah.
we saw
Before?
Sony's release of Spider-Man with
Okay.
what's his name?
To give you some context, they reused sets from this movie for Batman Forever.
What?
Wow.
Holy shit!
What?
That's our time period.
Wait. They reused sets from Batman Forever for this set.
Maybe I have it backwards.
Yeah, because Batman Forever was released in like 97, I think.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the fun thing about what's this viewing, is that this movie had no idea, like there was no genre for them to.
There was no Marvel Cinematic Universe
No.
even in
No.
thought at this
No.
point.
So
Marvel
were
was selling
trying-
off its properties to movie studios in hopes of surviving another decade.
Exactly. And so this is a movie where they're trying to make a superhero movie, they're trying to make a comedy, and it's all of these like first real stab at it outside of, you know, Tim Burton's fucking whack ass like
Which we all love Tim Burton for the wrong reasons these days. But yes, agreed.
So you remember loving it.
So I remember super loving this movie. I hope it's still as good as I remember.
Ash, what do you think you're going to get out of this?
I remember absolutely loving this movie when it came out. I thought it was hilarious. I honestly don't remember much about the movie, but I remember loving it. I remember thinking it was hilarious, thinking it was super funny. And like Brett said, like I think it was like really, you have to put yourself in that mindset where it was the first time we were making fun of those genres. So it was kind of like Shaun of the Dead, where Shaun of the Dead was the first time we made fun of zombie movies. So it was kind of the first time we made fun of superhero movies.
And do you think it'll sustain?
I mean, I hope so. I don't remember enough about the movie to like make a real educated guess, but I remember loving it enough that I feel like it should. Yeah.
What do you think, Bryce?
So I remember the CG in this movie being really awesome. I loved the aliens; they were really cool. Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith, that neuralizer thing that they had to white people's memory, which, as we all know, is where the name the Mystery Man came from, because no one can remember them. At the time, I thought that was just brilliant, and I think it's totally going to hold up.
All right, so Dalex, you seem to be a big proponent. Do you think this is going to maintain?
I hope this blows Bryce's mind in the most fantastic of ways. I have two things to say. One is red eyes, red eyes, red eyes. And the second is that having worked in casting and now having seen this movie multiple times since, I just am fascinated by how this movie was ever made.
Yeah, how they got these actors.
Understanding budgets and understanding things like that, and just how people will pop into play on a moment's notice, and you're like, oh my God, this person's fucking in this movie. And then just the constant wow of the people that showed up. So I'm, story-wise, I think it stands the test of time. I'm so excited.
Are we gonna have like that Zoolander moment when you're like, oh my God, David Bowie is in this movie?
You will
Kinda.
you will have moments of stuff you didn't expect.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Like, I love this movie. Remember this movie? I was looking at IMDb a few minutes ago and it's like, oh my God, I forgot he was in this.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't want to
and-
know then.
yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
You
wait
guys
for
are
it.
setting the bar pretty fucking high.
But there's
Yeah,
a lot of
we
stuff
are.
I haven't talked about that I remember from this movie, and it's all like people that show up. So
But one thing that
It's
I
true.
love that I plan to talk about a lot after we watch the movie that I want you to look out for, not actors. I'm fucking totally into the car. So pay attention to the car. And we'll talk more about that. So for now, if you can watch Mystery Men, you should watch Mystery Men. We're going to watch it and we're going to come back in just a minute and we can all talk about it and see if it holds up.
A blast from the 90s past. Superheroes that had no business saving your city. You are tuning into The Mystery Men.
Well,
Don't make sense not to live for fun. Okay, so we just watched Mystery Men. All right, so what are our initial reactions? I see a lot of smiles, a lot of giggles. People seem to have a pretty good time. Brett, what do you think?
oh man, so
You get to start. 'Cause
all right,
you're
I'll
just in my
start it
eye
off.
line.
Generally favorable reviews from me. Although there were some like aggressively unfunny jokes that they tried to
Yes.
put in there.
Yeah.
sight gags and
Some?
like verbal jokes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like most of the really genuinely funny stuff was like I almost like it seemed like an accident.
Yeah.
And and then they kept trying to write in a fart joke, and like just every time the room was just
many fart
dead
jokes.
silent.
But it's weird how, generally I would agree that a whole bunch of fart jokes is really flimsy. But somehow at the end of this movie, I feel like I enjoyed Spleen.
Sure.
And I can't explain to you why.
I liked every part of him except that they kept making him fart.
You
His
know,
entire superpower.
I
Like
would
Scott
really
Pumper's
like to
leg,
hear
you know?
that line out of context. I enjoy Spleen.
But his disgusting, like wet, snivelly, pimply face,
Yeah.
and like that way he was talking, it was hilarious.
Well, I didn't
But-
get it until I saw it this time that he's locked in that adolescent state. Like he's locked as a teenager when he got the curse. And yeah, I didn't get that before.
I find it interesting that like somebody had to have approached Pee Wee Herman, because I don't remember his real name, but somebody had
Paul
to have
Rubens.
approached him and been like, "Hey, we have this part where you could be like really flatulent. What do you think?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay."
Well, we talked about this when we saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was in kind of a bad way about that time. He was kind of in this weird
And you think
disgrace.
taking a
He had
role
been
like
to
this would make
jail.
it better?
He needed work. He was taking the work he could get. And he rocked it. Like he took a bad deal of a role and turned it into gold.
I will say I was pretty impressed with his commitment to the part.
How much of your life could you spend being referred to by everyone as Pee Wee Herman before that just becomes your name?
I thought it already was.
Yeah,
Because is Paul Rubens even his name really?
Probably
I don't
not
think so.
anymore.
and even to this day, and
The whole like general public had it changed.
yeah.
We legally paid. That's part of our tax incentive that we voted on last year.
To this day, and we just saw the B-52s at the county fair. I can't hear Planet Claire playing without thinking of Paul Rubens walking into that diner. Like, that's what that song means to me.
Yeah.
Was that in this movie?
Yeah,
No,
when he walked in, that was the B-52 song, Planet Claire. And even like at the concert, I'm like thinking of Paul Rubens when they play that song.
Dalex, what did you think?
A raucous A+++++. I enjoyed this the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it every subsequent
Second
time I've watched
time.
it on DVD, and I thoroughly enjoyed it watching it again tonight after having not seen it for a couple years. A lot of things held up in my mind. The thing that I always typically gravitate towards in any sort of medium is characters, and you have an abundance of character in this particular feature film, and to the point where it's like people are credited for like little tiny bit roles where they're just like a visual character, and it's just the most beautiful fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And
Yeah, like the artist thing, the Monkey Brothers.
yes, the fucking monkey. Like, you have Dane Cook at an unknown point in his career with like 7 lines and like a little like wow kind of thing, and Doug Jones being a pencil, and it's just like, again, I know that this is early in these people's careers, but like it's just a plethora of characters. It's like it's like the best part of if you took Marvel and dismantled it and put it into DC or to Dark Horse Comics, that's what you got out of this movie. It was just such a I just fucking love it.
And just really, really great actors. Like,
Absolutely.
there's just so much, and you guys were clearly having a great time watching Tom Waits. The little things that he does that he's watching and he's like, how'd that fraculator work? Just that little like mumbly Tom Waits thing that he does. It's just so much joy watching that.
I don't know, I don't know what Tom Waits' first movie was, and I don't know what the thing was that transcended him into like being an actor, because whoever made that jump for him, it's just brilliant.
I hope it was like a director that was like, you know what, who we need for this? Tom Waits. And like the producers were like, never could that ever happen, and then it did happen.
I think it might actually have been Francis Ford Coppola when he put him in Dracula. I'm going to look it up right now.
That's
because
fantastic.
that was a revelation when he was in Dracula.
Yeah, what character was he in Dracula?
Renfield.
Dracula's
he was the
first-hand man.
little slave guy from the insane asylum.
Oh, totally did not realize that.
I think the success of Tom's performance comes on the fact that he himself and his music and everything that he portrays in life is so eccentric. So we have those moments where he is just so like thrown away, and we just have that fraculator work, you know, like that's the genius of it. Because if he played it big, everything would be lost. It's too much for us because it's like, that's expected. But and we have that like that genuine little thing where it's almost a Benicio fucking del Toro mumble. I tried really hard, guys. Sarah fucking bailed on saying his name. Benicio del Toro mumble. It's beautiful.
Here's a beautiful. So I just looked up Tom Waits. I was way wrong. He was in a lot of movies before Dracula.
What?
His first role was in a movie called Paradise Alley, and his character name was Mumbles. right as you were saying the word
Perfect.
mumble, my eyes landed on the word Mumbles.
Insane.
Yeah. Oh, and he was in Rumblefish in '83. So yeah.
Which also sounds like mumble. Sam, what did you think? You've never seen the movie before.
I didn't care for it. I'm sorry. It like landed in this awkward like genre of somewhere between The Fifth Element and Zoolander,
I
and
can see
not
that.
quite taking
Production
itself.
design of Fifth Element.
Yeah, not quite taking itself as seriously as Fifth Element, but not quite as ridiculous as Zoolander. I don't know. It didn't stick
You feel like
for
it
me.
didn't quite find its tone?
Yeah, I didn't find it funny. You guys might turn on me for this. I legitimately fell asleep during it. I'm sorry.
You know, I'm actually really glad that you said that, because as much as I enjoyed watching it and I did have a fun time, and if this film has taught me anything, we need more movies with Eddie Izzard in it with like
Fact.
a sidekick with an afro. But
They were the
that
most interesting part.
said, yeah, like that said, I do agree. I didn't find it as funny as I remembered finding it funny.
So this is fascinating. Before we watched the movie, I was saying that I loved it earlier. I've watched it fairly recently and it fell flat for me. This time I was surprised to see, like, I was really into it. And it's weird how,
Interesting.
like, we know that you can love something and then later change the way you feel, but like to go back and forth
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, that is
is
weird.
weird. Yeah, I was so on board with it this
For the
time.
ladies, I don't fault you guys for not liking it because
For the ladies.
Sam alluded early on that there's not a plethora of strong female characters in this movie.
Yeah.
And this is something I wanted to talk about. Like, the whole deal with Claire Forlani's character is
my God.
exactly what's wrong with movies.
Yes.
Her entire point, and she's a wonderful actor,
Agreed.
and she's like playing it really well, but she's put in this situation where it's like her entire role is to validate Ben Stiller's character by completely irrationally falling in love with him.
Yep.
She
Absolutely.
hates him
There's never
for
a
a
moment.
good reason.
And there's
in the beginning of the movie.
absolutely no reason
No
for
reason for that
Frankenstein
change.
to even know that they're like dating.
Well, no, because the disco guys saw her. They did do
when
that
they,
later
when they
on.
They
dropped
had
him off. Yeah.
But
Literally
there's
1
no-
second where they
But
cleared
like
that up.
even
But
then,
there's-
it's like so out of left field.
Yeah. And there's no reason for her to change her mind and decide she loves him.
Yeah.
And that, I think that honestly, truly, this is probably really funny, but I think that gave me an unhealthy view of relationships as a child, watching bullshit like this,
Agreed.
you know? And it's just bad storytelling, and it's unfair to characters and actors like that.
Or as you said, that Sam pointed out, the first two female characters that we get are like these two girls dressed as Wonder Woman that get into like a fight, and it's just like such a horrible
And then the
stereotype.
third girl is like
PMS
PMS girl or
woman?
whatever.
Yeah.
So awful.
Yeah, and even like the only real like female character is like has no ability of her own. She's just a vice for her dad.
Generally, I think that's a good criticism, except for this movie. The point is, none of them actually have legitimate powers.
But at least like the guy uses a shovel. Like it's a dumb superpower.
At least he can
but
hit
at
somebody
least
with it.
he's the one manipulating the shovel. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a bowling ball and it's like she just throws it and it throws it really well.
I really loved the wife, though. I'm gonna say I did
Yeah.
love
Oh,
the
yeah.
wife.
Yeah, Shoveler's
she was
wife
pretty
is great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do like, you know, you're absolutely right about the bowler, but that moment where like she has her moment and she catches the ball, and it's like, that's it. Now I'm going back to grad school. That was the deal. Like I really enjoy that moment. I dig
It's
that.
validated and victorious.
So my memory of this movie before we watched it was like, all right, so I remember they catch the superhero guy and then they fucking melt him. And in my mind, that happens at the beginning of the movie.
40 minutes later.
And I think there's this gap of like, just like, it wasn't that great from the point where
Yeah.
they captured him to the point where they mounted the rescue.
Yeah.
And like the before and the after was really fun. And like, that's where most of the comedy and all of the action happened. And then the middle of the movie, I already can't remember it.
Yeah, it was a series of them like just getting their ass kicked over and
And
over
like
again.
a disco party that just lasted forever.
Yeah, I love that.
Disco.
Disco is forever.
It is forever.
It's forever.
I love that shot where it was like the first shot in the disco room with Eddie Izzard, and it was clearly like Eddie Izzard is going to do this amazing dance number, and like
Yeah.
he just hadn't done his
Not
homework, and so it's like, all right, I can do this and I can do this, and okay, that's the shot.
It's basically the Macarena, but
A
like
little bit.
A little flair in there,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I feel like the way that they defeated the bad guy wasn't as funny as I remember aside. I was like, okay, whatever. I kept trying to remind myself, like you said, Nick, like, remember that this is the first time that this sort of genre kind of happened. But then we get to the point where they're going to defeat the bad guy, and he pulls out the waitress, and like just the way that they defeated the bad guy too was so lame. I just feel like that was like the worst part of the
He
whole
found his
movie.
power.
Ugh.
His
Yeah.
power was literally just
Get mad.
fighting like a regular person.
with
His
really,
power
really
was
bloodshot eyes.
He was so fucking whiny that he finally like PMS. Like he should have been PMS woman. What the fuck?
And I wouldn't even agree with that, Brett, because his power was that he could fight, but he did like ridiculous fight moves, like that, like elbow in the stomach and then hit,
Oh,
and
slapping
then
his
like hit in
hand.
the face. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it
was
was just
goofy.
really lame. It was really lame.
Kinda lame.
In the
stupid.
defense of this movie, Yes, very lame ending. But also, these fucks don't have powers, so
Yeah.
you just have to let them like go with it. So there's some plausibility, but yeah, could they have spiced it up? Could they add a little bit more dash to it? Sure.
But
Yeah,
it was
there's
fun.
a lot of fun
It was
stuff.
definitely fun.
Now, can we talk about the Smash Mouth?
Oh yes.
Which
Oh,
part of
it
the
was so
Smash Mouth?
perfectly matching the tone of this movie,
Yeah.
meaning it had just come out that fall.
There was just like that time where that song was in Too Many Things, and this
Oh yeah,
is
it was
one of
the
them.
trailer song.
But this
Wasn't
was-
it also in Shrek?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But this is the first time we saw this song, and then they were like, it was just that song became for that group of 5 men a cash cow, and it was just like,
Yeah.
where else do we want to put this so
It
that
was
we
a
can all
catchy
retire
tune.
with a lot of cars?
Speaking
Maybe
of,
they were really the mystery men.
I was just listening back at our Total Recall episode, and I was talking about a shot that they do specifically for the trailer. And so Bill Macy's entire egg salad speech, where he's like, "We're not the ones they're looking for. We're the other guys." That's for the trailer. You know, that line, like they clearly put that in the movie just so they could have it in the trailer.
Is
Oh
it
my
wrong of
gosh.
me that I was singing "There Goes My Hero" and thinking of the movie The Other Guys when that line came up?
Okay, yeah.
For the
That is
bushes.
kind of the point of the other guys, isn't it? Yeah.
That whole beginning sequence is like one of my favorite things that I've seen in a long time. The Rock, the Dwayne Johnson.
So, one thing that I love about this movie, I kind of alluded to before we recorded, is the Herkimer Battle Jitney. That thing is so great.
Yes.
And I fell down a hole doing some research. What? There is a huge debate on the internet about whether the Herkimer Battle Jitney is a real thing or whether they came up with it for the movie.
Is that
And-
the thing that they were driving?
Yeah, the big tank.
The thing that looks like a Cylon?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I'm quoting Ash on that.
Yeah.
She
the
said that
greatest non-lethal military vehicle ever made. It's super cool, but like there's people like fighting in forums on the internet,
first. Oh my god.
and they're like, "Oh, it was a vehicle that they built during World War II to take senators onto a battlefield so they wouldn't get hurt." And then other people's like, "You are an idiot. It's clearly built just for the movie. It doesn't exist anywhere else
I
outside
think it
of this."
was like number 7 of the Cylons.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely looks like a Cylon vehicle. Yeah.
Herkimer.
The Herkimer Battle Jitney.
Herkimer.
Like, is jitney a word?
Is that the inspiration for Ermagerd speak?
Herkimer Battle Jitney.
That way too well.
That's his inner Muppet coming out.
Man. I think that this might be one of Greg Kinnear's finest roles up until he landed Little Miss Sunshine. The small moments where he's just being a total dipshit.
Greg Kinnear should have been bigger. He never
in life?
quite.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, totally.
He never quite found the traction that he deserved, I think.
It's weird because he's a very watchable, very funny comedic actor, but also has a very strong dramatic side. To the point where it's like he doesn't have the charisma that Robin Williams would have, but he should have had some more standing in his life. And yeah, he ended up doing Rake for Fox, and it was like, was that Fox?
yeah.
And then that was an Australian show that we adapted here for the States, and it was obviously not supposed to happen. But yeah, it's like, where has he
He was
been?
really good in Sabrina, but I don't think that was very popular.
Wait,
The remake of Sabrina?
the Teenage Witch?
No. It was an Audrey Hepburn movie.
Oh,
They remade
yes.
with Harrison Ford and
Oh my God!
and
Right.
Greg Kinnear.
Oh wow! Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great, but it wasn't that popular. Yeah,
It's
that
funny
dude.
you say that about him because I kind of felt like this is Janine one of her best roles. Personally.
Totally.
I really enjoyed her in this role.
Yeah, it's we kind of had this conversation when we watched Wet Hot American Summer. It's Janine Garofalo as Janine Garofalo.
Yeah, she does
but
kind of play.
it's good. Like I enjoy it.
This was kind of, for me personally, this was like, back when I originally saw it, when it first came out, this was like the first time I think I was really introduced to her. So this has always been the character
makes
for
sense.
me that, I associate that with.
I think my favorite character of hers is the angry veterinarian in Broad City.
Oh, I haven't
Oh.
seen that.
Yeah.
She is hilarious.
I think as many great actors as there were here, William H. Macy is the actor's actor. Like, that dude is one of the best. And
What does that mean? The actor's actor.
I don't know. It's just hyperbole
You're
that
just
I'm
making
throwing out
shit
there.
up.
No,
But
no,
it's like-
he's like somebody who
super-
studied extensively at the Atlantic Theater Company, or he created the Atlantic Theater Company,
he?
and was
He's one of David Mamet's
he's
regular
one of-
guys.
Exactly. This is a guy that could bust some fucking chops on stage, and then to watch him in such a buffoonish role is
But
so
he takes
enjoyable.
it so seriously, and it's like that's
And it's
where
such the right way to
comedy
go
is.
for that character.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
if he was any other character in the movie, he should have played it more goofy. But he did it so right for that
Yeah.
character.
That moment when he like turns to his wife and she's like, "I might not be here when you come back," and he's like,
It's a choice I
well,
have to make.
"Yeah, it's just so brilliant."
Yeah.
he's so good there. Can we talk about Bayham in the movie too?
Oh yeah, Michael
pointed
Bay
it
is
out,
one of the
Dalex.
frat guys.
Oh, right.
So great.
I didn't know about that until years later, after he had kind of like gotten a reputation for himself. And I was like, oh my God, who put Michael Bay in this movie as a frat boy?
So if you didn't catch it, the frat guy who says, "Can we take the brewskis?"
Who had like the only
That's
frat
Michael
boy
Bay.
with a line.
Yeah.
The 40-year-old frat boy.
you may take the brewskis.
Was he like a friend of somebody? You think?
I mean, you have to wonder.
Well-
Like, somebody at Universal was like, oh, maybe Universal produced
Well,
and
my-
distributed Bad Boys. I don't remember.
My
They were like,
guess
put
is-
Mike in this.
Wasn't Michael Bay a big commercial director
He
before?
was, actually,
So
yes.
maybe he was pals with the director.
That would
But
make
he
sense.
wasn't an actor. Like this.
Right.
This doesn't make much sense.
He got
For
his
him
SAG
to
card
be-
that day.
Sometimes you put your
Yeah.
pals in.
right?
But you had
you
Or,
know what happened is they showed up for the shoot and they had all the frat guys dressed up, and Michael Bay was there to hang out and just happened to be dressed in what they were wearing.
oh yeah, I was in that frat too.
Can you say this line?
That's my alma mater.
Or the guy who looks like Peele from Key and Peele.
Oh, dude, that guy right behind
Yeah, the
Yeah.
background
Frankenstein's
actor.
left shoulder.
So
Who
good.
was it?
I
I
he
was like
wasn't
looking.
the guy.
I just looked up Jordan Peele, and he didn't do anything until like 2005, so it
Oh.
wasn't him. I mean, like CeeLo Green was one
Yes.
of the henchmen.
And like
Like, what's happening here?
Everybody showed up for this fucking movie. And that's, like, I've said it before, but, like, budgetarily, this doesn't make any sense. Like,
yeah,
we were talking
absolutely.
at the very end about, like, who got first billing, and I was like, that's insane. Because Hank Azaria's name popped up first, but I think it was Nick who was like, oh, no, it must be alphabetical.
Well,
by
somebody
last
else
name.
said it.
Okay.
yeah.
I said it.
Thank you, Ash. And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because billing for this movie, that casting director would have ripped out all of their hair.
It felt like a Friends Network casting situation.
Someone
Yeah.
was
Somebody was
a
pals with
friend.
it, and maybe Ben Stiller. That's a guy who has a lot of pals.
Yeah.
So maybe it was
That's
him
true.
just like calling all his friends.
They'd be like, I'm going to call up you, and everybody's coming in.
Also, we should totally talk about the fact that Hank Azaria is. I feel like he's one of those actors who
Yeah.
is just so underrated.
Flying under the radar.
He is so hilarious. He's really versatile.
So much better than he gets credit for.
Yeah,
I don't think he gets the
absolutely.
recognition.
Which
No.
character was he?
Blue Raja.
The Blue
Yeah.
Raja.
And also the voice on the radio, like the news
Yeah.
announcer who is the same voice
just
as
assumed
Apu
that
in
was-
The Simpsons.
Oh,
I
really?
just assumed that was his job.
Yeah. As the radio
the
announcer.
same
Yeah.
character.
I heard that and I was like, oh,
It's
okay.
like,
so
oh,
he's just
Apu's on the radio.
Yeah.
I wrote a couple things down real quick.
And
Did
I
you?
want to point out, Dalex is the first guest we've ever had to bring a notebook.
Yeah.
And I applaud this.
Very dedicated.
To a movie I've seen before. When Captain Amazing and Casanova Frankenstein meet up, they have these weird wide tracking shots. And actually, there are shots all throughout this movie that I'm like, now that I know that the director was a commercial guy, I'm like, this is one gigantic commercial. Plus, there's a lot of Pepsi endorsement,
Yeah.
or product placement, I should say. But it was like they had such bizarre shots, like close-ups when you were just like, whoa, what are we doing? Like, close-ups for what? Close-ups for what? You know?
Can we make that video?
Yes.
We need to do that.
That'll be something that Ash and this team is working on in the near future. But it was just such a bizarre, like there were just bizarre shots for the sake of
Like
having
the finger with the cocaine
Yes!
fingernail as the
Oh,
like
yeah.
in the front of the shot as a point of view.
The targeting
Yeah.
kind of shot or whatever.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of situations where it seemed like the audio not so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they you know what it was? It's probably one of those things where they did like the good clean cut, and then like someone outside of the production saw it and was like, "This doesn't make any fucking sense." Like, there needs to be more shots. And like, well, we didn't fucking do the post work on all those other shots. Just fucking add them in. And so like they have that in the middle of a scene, and then it'll cut. Suddenly we'll be talking like this, and then like cut back, and it's fine again. And it's like,
there's the scene where they were all around the table talking, like after they let Janine into their little group, and like that whole scene just sounded like it was camera audio. Like the audio was so bad.
I'm a big fan of when they fix story pieces with ADR.
Yes.
So a little piece of dialogue that they didn't have in the script and didn't even shoot, they just ADR'd it in later. And if you watch the new Fantastic Four movie, that's one of many reasons why it's a steaming pile of shit. Because they stitched it together with bits of ADR to make one scene work into another scene.
But did that really, there was that moment when Ben Stiller is getting on his motorcycle. Like, did that ADR really add anything
the whole
to that
thing
moment?
about like, oh, testicles rising.
I'm just sick of the whole shtick. Like there was a writer who was like, "What's his superpower?" Farts. And like,
And that writer was the executive's 12-year-old son.
yeah. And then like they went through this whole fucking script writing, and like there's probably one guy that every time they brought up the fart joke, he's just like, and
like Gene likes it. It's staying in.
Everybody's like, Gene laughed. Gene thought it was funny.
I think I wrote Pangea is choice.
Yeah, I
don't-
can see that.
I don't really know what I wrote, but it starts with a P. There's definitely an is choice in there, and it immediately follows my note, which is a quote, and it says, "The shoveler is hammered, LOL."
So I was impressed with the fact that you brought a notebook. I'm not so impressed anymore.
your writing looks like Arabic.
I was in the dark. It was
That's
dark.
how much fun he was having. He switched to Arabic.
Guys, it's not his superpower. So.
I'm not a blind writer, nor am I a ghost writer.
Do you have the spirit of vengeance?
Oh my
Do you
god!
ghost ride the pen?
A ghost ride the whip.
Ghost ride the script.
Oh my god! Seriously though, Spirit of Vengeance, Ghost Rider 2 is a fucking amazing film.
I don't know if I trust your taste in movies.
This has been a paid
Did
sponsorship.
you like Ghost Rider 1?
No, I did not.
Because I really hated it.
Yeah, it's really awful.
I think the world hated it.
Yeah, everybody, and it.
So where did a second
But
good movie come
Did
from?
you like
totally
Ghost
different
Ride the
production.
Whip as a movement?
I did love it as a movement. Yes, I was fully behind. No, the second movie was by the people who did Crank 2, and it had so much
I love
less
Crank.
Nick Cage and so much more of a flaming skull, and that was all you needed.
Huh.
Anyway,
Kind of what you're there for.
absolutely.
So, in a world where we've never seen the gag of superheroes that are terrible, like as something that just introduces that concept, like I think this movie did a good job with that, and I think it was a fun concept, and I think it paid off on that.
And it inspired a lot of people to say that could have been better. And then so many
Okay.
more movies were made.
This is interesting. Has anybody done that concept better?
Kick-Ass,
Mark Miller, yes.
Venture Brothers.
Okay.
Interesting.
Guardians of the Galaxy. That's another one.
Yes.
Sure.
I was thinking
Oh, yeah.
like as they
Misfits.
had their big hero scene where they're all in a line walking towards the camera, but kind of looking like doofuses, I could not help but thinking of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, and they kind of did the group hug scenario to defeat the bad guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
In Guardians,
It
yeah.
was hand
but to a
holding,
much
but
greater effect
yeah,
in Guardians.
exactly. That was like they did a better job at that same scenario.
You know, I just watched Guardians like a week or two ago. Still cry when Peter Quill's mother dies. Still cry.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So I guess the only Nick, did you say what you thought about it?
I think so. Yeah, because I was
Okay.
saying like I feel like I loved it when I first saw it. I saw it recently and I wasn't so on board, but this time I was really into it somehow.
The only one we haven't heard from is good old Bryce.
So Bryce,
what
what'd
did
you
you
think?
I liked it.
Informative.
I thought you were going to ask where the aliens were.
Well, yeah. So
Thanks for listening to this episode of Rewatch, and thank you, Dalex Miller, for joining us.
My heavens.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. What a freaking pleasure to laugh with you guys all night.
If you're in the LA area at all, you should definitely check out the Roadies. You guys do improv shows every month?
Yeah, it
how
really
is there a
depends.
schedule?
Check the Facebook page. That's
Don't
where
you have
all
a
the-
Twitter now too? I made you
We
sign up for Twitter.
do, and I haven't updated it at all. So
So what is it?
it's I don't know.
Yeah, you
So
and
if
me,
you're
we're the
in
anti-Twitter.
LA in
I don't know
2004
what my
in a
phone
world
is.
without Twitter, then
use the Facebook.
Find them on
Hop on the
Facebook.
book. We do post all of our info on the book. Like us there. Twitter is happening kind of. We might even have an Instagram, I think. I don't know.
and you could probably check the schedule at what's the theater?
IO
iOS.
IO West. Yeah.
It's Improv Olympic, but they got a threat to be sued by the Olympics, so it's IO
Oh
West.
That's
boy.
fun.
Maybe they wouldn't like us mentioning that.
you're not under NDA.
But-
Yeah, right.
You can also follow Dalex on Twitter
True. Dalex the Alien.
DALEX.
That's right.
The Alien.
not like the Doctor Who one.
Nah,
No.
but I do.
But he is an alien.
Come
Like the
from the
Doctor
moon.
Who one.
I am an alien. Thank you guys. Yes, I'll see you guys at Roadie's shows and listen to my face there.
All right. And don't forget, this is part of the Laugh Stash network of educational content. Oh, wait, no. There's other shows, though.
Yes.
Me and Ash have a drinking show called
We
Let's
do.
Drink.
Also, an episode with Dalex coming soon.
Yeah,
Yes.
If it's not already out, I don't know when these things release.
Ash,
I've already seen it.
We lived it.
there's another cooking show on there called The Hunger Dames, where they cook.
Thanks. We do. We cook nerdy, fun stuff. We have video game parodies, which you can see Dalex's face all over.
It's so true. I'm everywhere.
He's in our Plants vs. Zombie video. He's in our Cook Bitch Breaking Bad music video.
You
He's
find a
in
good
our-
comedic actor, you keep that guy.
I do. I just keep pulling that thread.
Soon to be in the music video. Close up
Yeah.
of what?
Close up for
That's
what?
coming in later in 2015.
I just keep telling Dalex, hey, will you come do this free thing for me? I will feed you food.
I am happy to do that.
But don't forget that you can follow us on Twitter at LaughStashTV. You can also follow our podcast here on Twitter at Let's Rewatch. And if you ever have any movie suggestions, please tweet them at Let's Rewatch as well.
I'm gonna do that tonight
You do it.
And if you liked
once I find my.
you like the
phone.
music on the show that's in the beginning or in the middle, I make that. You can find my stuff on breadeagles.com. That's bread, the food, and eagles, the pluralized bird creature.
My God, that bird's been pluralized.
And if you
Call me
guys
Animal Rescue.
listened to the show and loved it, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. And if you didn't love it, lie.
Everybody loves a liar.
Okay, so that's it for the show. Next week, we'll be watching The Master of Disguise.
Oh, no.